NETCODE. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. So today we are going to proceed with our help desk management system. So as you can see, this is our login screen. We have our email address and password. So I'll just provide my email address and password and then sign in. So when you sign in, this is our dashboard. As you can see, we have our total tickets, the urgent tickets, closed tickets, escalated tickets, and also we have some graphs. Then down here we have our recent tickets. So you can see you have the number of ticket, the ticket title, the description, priority, status, created by, created on, and the number of comments. So if you click on the number of comments, then it takes you to the number of comments, and you can actually add a comment. You can see you can provide the comment, and you can tie this to a ticket. So if you just click create, then your comment will be created. So as you can see, also you have all lists of comments. So these are all the list of comments. We have the ticket categories. So you can categorize your tickets. You also have the ticket subcategories. As you can see, these are all the ticket subcategories. Then you have the audit trails. So every time you are creating our application, then you are able to see the audit trails that was done. So you can see here, we have the action that is the closed ticket module, the affected table, the timestamp, the IP address, and the user. Then you also have the system users. You can see these are the system users within our application. So we can actually create, if you say add new, you can add new user, the first name, middle name, last name, provide the gender. You can also provide the role, email address, phone number, country. Then we have city, username, and password. So we created cities and even countries on our previous video. So we'll be able to link these to our user and also the cities. So you can see we have a system code. So this is where we are grouping our gender. That is the gender, marital status, priority. So you're able to do that. So under system code details, this is where now we have the gender. So for example, you see this is the system code, but the system code detail are the options. You see we have the female and male. So you can add another system code detail, and you're able to select the particular system code that you want to assign. So for example, you can say here both. So if you just do here both, then you can, let's just maybe do divorced here. Just do divorced as one of the system code detail. So if we just do that, then here you can say this is the order number 3, and if you click create, it will create it. So if we just search here, so you'll notice that under system code details, we now have marital status, and it has, so you can do that. So you'll be able to see we have single, married, and divorced, but the system code is marital status. You can see it is the same. So this is how you group. Then you have the system roles. So these are all the roles within the system. We have the role number and we have the role name. So you can also create a new role depending on how you want to see. So you can say here technician. So you just do here technician. So if you click create, then you'll be able to see that particular role. Then you have the departments. So the departments here, you can see the department code, department name, created by and created on. So you can add new departments. Then you have the system tasks. So these are all the system module or submodule or even the actions that you can be able to undertake within the system. Then you have the system roles and profiles. This is where now you are assigning profiles to particular roles. So you can see here, you have this particular role and you say maybe you want them to access system tasks. So you'll be actually enhancing this particular section so that it makes sense for some of you guys. Then you have the system settings. So these are some of the settings within the system. So you can see password expiry, maybe it takes 30 days. You can see here that ticket resolution is 5 days. Then we also have countries. So here you can create countries within the system. So you can see here we have Ghana, India, Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, Senegal, Somalia. So if you're watching this video, you can actually tell us the country you are watching. So you actually get someone from Germany. So you're going to add your country here. So if you provide your country down there, we'll always add the country on our list. So we just get some guy who commented on our channel. We noticed you. And also, if you're watching this video and you are watching us from a certain country that we don't have captured here, you can always comment down below and we'll add it. So if you're new to this channel as well, you can always subscribe and comment. And in case you need the source code, you can use the link down below to claim the source code. So we also have cities. You can see we have cities. So cities, you click on add city, you provide the city code, the city name, and you can now choose the city. That is the country. So this is what we have been doing. So today I want us to modify something. So if you go back to our code, there's something that we have been doing. For example, on tickets, whenever we have been creating tickets, we have been doing some weird thing here. So there's something we have been doing for audit trail, you see. So this audit trail, we are actually kind of duplicating. Every time we are creating our application or making some entries on the system, then we have to duplicate this. So I want us to change this particular scenario and try to make this a bit easier. So there's one thing that I want us to do. So we are going to modify our audit trail table. So let's just go to our model. So I'll just go to the audit trail model. Then we have the ID. So you see here the ID, we have the action, we have the module, affected table, timestamp, IP address, user ID, and even user. So what I want us to do, this particular user, so we can always have a user ID as string, then we can have action, that is okay. We can have the table, so we can have affected tables, that's fine. Then we can have so we need also to have timestamp here. So you can say public. So I'll just do public. So I want us to have here, let's just do public. Sorry, public. Then here we can do date time. Then I want us to do here we can say, so we can actually have these as timestamp. I think we have it already. We have the timestamp. So the next thing that I want us to introduce is the new columns. Instead you're adding something, we need to track the columns. So I'll just say string, then you say new values. So you want to track the new values that you just added, and you also track, we need to track the affected columns. So it'll just public string, then you can say affected columns. So so we are going to track now the new values that you are providing to the database and also the affected columns. Then we can now even do, so we need also to get the primary key of that particular table. So I'll just do string, and I'm going to say here primary key. So we had created some values on our table. So we need to ensure that these particular fields that we've just introduced doesn't give us some conflicts. So we've added the new values, but also before you add a new value to the database, we have some old values in case you are updating. So you also need to track them. So this one will add old. So you're going to track old values. So that is our old values. So we are now having the old values, new values, affected columns, and we now have the timestamp and the IP address. So the next thing that I want us to do is I want us to create some items here. So I want us to have constants. So let's just create another. I want us to have some. So let's just go to view model. Then I'm going to add something here called audit types. So here I'm going to add something called audit types. So this one, we are going to say audit. So we are going to call this audit types. So if you just click audit types, then this one we can have this as enum. Then I'm going to have some values here. So we'll just have some values. So we can say none. Then we can have another one. We say create. So this is when you are creating, our value will be 1. If you are updating, if you are deleting, our values will be 3. So then we can also have another one in case you are logging in. We can also do 4. So we can have those 4 items. So then once we can actually create another folder here. we can call these audit, or you can just have it as, yes, let's create another folder called audits. So I want us to lump them together. So I'll just stop our application. Then on this particular folder, let's rename this and say audits. Audits, can call this audits manager. So you can say audits manager. Then let's move our view model. So this one, you can move it here. So you can move that there. Then you can refactor the namespace. Then I want us to add another class here. So I want us to add another class called audit entry. So you call audit entry. So that on this audit entry, this is where now we are going to deal with our audits. So let's just introduce our constructor. So we'll have our public audit entry. Then here I want us to have entity. So we call this entity entry. So we can have entity entry. Then we are going to call this entry. Then inside here, we can now say entry. Can just say entry, sorry. Call this entry is equals to entry. So we are going to say entry here. But now you see this entry is actually giving some errors. So we need to declare it here. So we'll say public entry, and you can actually do that. So that is it. And our error is gone. So the next thing that I want us is to declare our user. So we are going to say public string user ID. Then you can have that. Then also we want to declare the table. So we are going to say public string. Then here I'll just do table name. Then we can now have, so we need to now declare some of the key values that is the old values and the new values. So here I'll just do public dictionary. So we're going to use a dictionary here. So I'll just do string, sorry. So that is it. So I'll do string, then this one will be object. Then here I'll say key values. Then I'll do here new equals to new. Then I'll do the same. So we are going to copy this here. So these will be key values. So I'm going to copy this here, and you can actually reuse it down here. So the same thing, then we'll say this is old values. So I want us to get also the old values of our tables before even updating. Then the next thing here, we can also do new values. So that is it. So here I think you can do this, or you can actually remove this and do new. So let's just do new. This is the simplest way of doing things. So you can do this, and you can say here new. So once you do that, so we have the old values and new values. Then we need also to declare the audit type. So we'll just do public, say audit types. So this is our audit types. Then you can say audit types. That is it. Then I hope this, yes, this is a class. Then we need also to take note of the changed columns. So I'll say public list. Then here I'll do string. Then if we do that, then I'm going to call this change columns. So then we now need to define our audit trail here. So I'm going to say public. So I'll do public. Then I'll say audit. So I'll just do audit. So I'll just do here audit. So here we now have our model audit trail. So that is our model. Then we need to say here, we call this to audit trail. We can call it to audit. Then I'm going to say this is like a method. Then if we have it there, then there's something that I want us to do now. I want us to declare, so I'll say variable, say audit is equals to audit trail. Then we need to assign values now. So we say audit dot user ID equals to, so we need to assign that user ID. Then here also we can say audit dot audit type. So here you say we need to specify the type. So you can say here action. So you say action equals to, then you say audit types, then dot. So we need to get to string. So that is it. Then you also need the table name. So you're going to say audit dot. So you need to specify the table that is affected. So you say affected table, then equals to table name. Then you also need to log the timestamp. So I'm going to say audit dot timestamp equals to, then we need to specify the date time now. Then you also need the primary key of the affected table. So you do dot primary key, sorry, you just do your primary key equals to, so we need to do JSON. So we are going to use JSON convert. So you'll just do JSON convert, then dot serialize object, then we do key values. So if we do that, then we can now do another one for all the values. So we do audit, then we say here dot. So you now want to do the old values is equals to, it's the same thing. So you're going to do old, so we'll do here old values dot count. Then if count equals to 0 or null, then you just provide null if count is 0. But if it doesn't, then we need to JSON convert here. So you assign that, and here you can say old values. So if we do that, so here you'll see it is old values. So this is equals to all values, then dot count. If it's equals to 0, then we need that, then we say is null, then that is okay. Then the next thing is we need to do the same thing to the new values here. So I'm going to do here new values, then these will be new values. So we can copy this, have it here, we say new values, then these will be our new values. The next thing will be the changed columns. So here we'll now have affected columns. There we go. Then we say this is changed columns dot count. Then you can have these as changed columns. There we go. Then there is another thing that I want us to do. If you check on our model, let's just go back to our audit trail model. So we've added the action. So we need also the module. So we are remaining with the module and the IP address. So if you just go back here, we need to define those two things. So we need to define here the module. So here the module. So you say the module, and you also need the IP address. So here I'll just do again here IP address. So IP address. So then you now come here and you need to add those two things. So I'll do audit dot, sorry. So I'll just do here audit dot module equals to, so that is a module. The next thing is audit dot IP address equals to IP address. Then once this is done, what we need is we need to return audit, and that now our error goes away. So we are now ready to deal with audits in our application. So we have all the fields that we wanted. So the next thing that we need to do is we now need to go to our application DB context. So let's just go to our application DB context. So I want us to modify some things there. So we have that under application DB context. So what I want us to do is I want us, we've been doing just so if you have been keen with our application, for example, under, let's say under cities, we've been doing, when you go to create, so let's just see, when you go to create, we've been doing save changes, and these save changes, it is actually part of EF core. So I want us to modify this and override it. So we are going to do here application DB context. On our application DB context, we are going to introduce something called, so we are going to do public virtual. So let's just do virtual async. Then you're going to say task. Then this particular task, you're going to say it should return int. Then you are going to use the same name, save changes async. So save changes async, but here we'll be requiring something to be supplied now. We'll need the user ID to be supplied, and also we can always have these as null. So if we do that, then we need to close it. Then on our save changes, we need to say on before save changes, we need to supply user ID. So I'll show you when this on before changes is. So then we need to say a variable result. So we'll say variable result equals to await dot base save changes. Then we need to return the result. So these save changes, we need to create it. This is the one now that will be logging our audit trail. So we need to have it down here. So I'll just do private, then void. Then we have our own save changes here. Then we need to supply our user ID. So we'll say user ID. Then if we do that, you will notice that our error at the top here is gone. So we now need to process our audit trails here. So you need to say change tracker dot detect changes. So this will detect all the changes that we are doing. Then down here we now do variable. We say audit entries equals to, we need to say new list. Then we need to supply our model audit trail. So once we have that, then we are cool. This should be list. Okay, so then we need now to do a for each. So we are going to say for each variable audit trail. So here I'm going to say, let's just call this entry. Then this one will be, the changes will be from change tracker, and we are going to loop it. Then we do dot entries. So if we loop that, then we are now doing for each. So these will be entries. This is actually a method. So if you do that, it will get all the entries. Then now inside here is where everything now begins. So we say if entry, so if entry dot entity, is audit trail, then we need or, so we need to do or, sorry, So we need to say audit trail, then we say or. So we do or. If that is equals to, then we say entry dot state is equals to, you say entity state dot detached or. So we're going to do that. So we say if that is that, or entry dot state equals to, equals to entity state dot unchained. So if this is either the audit trail is this particular table, or it has been detached, or it is unchained, then what we need to do here, we need to say continue. So if we do that, that's cool. Then the next thing that we need to do, if otherwise, then we need to perform our, so here we now do something here. So we need to say our variable, we do audit trail. So it's, you can actually say audit entry equals to, so we say new audit entry. So this is our audit. So we say here audit entry. This is our audit entry. Then we'll now pass our entry here. Then let's close it. Then we now use this audit entry. So we are going to say audit entry dot table name. So the table name that is being changed will be now the entry, this entry here, dot entity, then dot get type, and then we just do dot name. That will give us our table name. Then we can now do audit entry dot user ID equals to, we need the user ID here. Then that is the user ID that was applied here. So that is okay. Then we can do audit trail. So we now need so this we now have the table and the user ID. So the next thing that we need to do is we can actually add this to our list of audits. So you see this. So this will say audit entries. So I'll just say audit entries dot add. So I'm going to add our audit trail here. So if we add it, then you can close it. So you'll notice that our audit trail, this is saying audit entry. So we need to, this actually should be a list of our model. So yes, so we need to change this. So this one should be audit entry here. So that is okay. So the next thing that we need to do is now we need to say for each variable property in entry.properties, we need now to access the values, that is the columns and the things. So we need to say here string property name equals to, we now do property, so we'll do property dot metadata dot name. So if we do that, then we'll have the property name. So we say if property name dot metadata. So you say if property dot metadata, sorry, so here we'll need to say dot property dot metadata dot is primary key. So you can actually check if it's primary key. Then what do we need to do? We need to assign it. So we'll just do audit entry. So here we'll just do our audit entry dot key values equals to, so we'll just do key values, then you say property name, then equals to property, so this will be property dot current value. So we'll just do property dot current value. Then we do here continue, so that we'll have our primary key. Then the next thing is we now need to do some items whenever we are dealing with each type of state. So we now say here switch. So we're going to use switch. So we are going to say switch. Then we say entry dot state. So if we do that, then we'll now check our state. So we say state, if the state is equals to added. So what do we need to do? So we say audit trail dot key. So here we'll just do audit trails dot audit. That is the action. So here we'll say audit trail dot audit types, yes, equals to enums dot audit types, then dot, let me just copy this, audit types dot create. So you remember our audit types, what was the name? This is our audit type, so we need to have it here. So go back to our audit entry, there we go. So you can actually change these to, let's change this to audit type. Then you can go back here, we change this to audit type. Then you can just call this audit type. You have it here, audit type. Then if you go to our application DB context, we are going to call this here. So this will be equals to enums audit type dot create. So let's just do that. So you just do audit, then audit type is equals to audit type dot create. Then you can also copy this and we can reuse. We say here new value. So this is we say new value, then provide the name of the new value, which will be the property name. Then we say property. So the new value will be property. Then we say dot current value. Okay, so once you are done with that, then you can actually break. So do that. So that is for added, assuming we are now modifying. So this will apply when you are creating any particular record. So here we can say if we are deleting, what happens if we are deleting? So here we now do here create, delete, then these will be old values. So you're actually storing old values because when you are deleting, we are deleting the old values. Then here we say original value. Then the next thing is you are modifying. I think this is where now we have a bigger thing because we need to save the old values and you also need to track the new values. So we just say if case this is modified. So what do we need here? So first thing that we need to say, if we check if property dot method property dot say dot is modified. So you need to check if it's first modified. So if it's modified, that's when we need to do some magic here. So we now need to copy this, and here we can do, we'll say audit, then we say dot changed columns. We need to track the columns that has been changed. then we say add, then inside add we need to add the property name. So that is it. Then we need to also check provide our audit type. So our audit type here will be update. Then we need also to change the old values will be property, then original values. Then you also need to add the old values. So here we also need to say new values. I mean, we need to track the new value, and here we'll just do current value. So that will have tracked our changes. So then after doing that, what we need now to do after our for each, we need to say here for each. You say for each, then you say variable audit entry in. So we say now on our audit entries that we've just generated, we now need to add it to our table. So you see audit logs, audit trails, which is our table. Let's just confirm our table name is audit trails. You see this? This is what we need here. So if you do this, we need our table name here. So this is our audit trails, and we now need to add everything that we have on our audit entry, then we say dot to edit. So that is it. So once we have that, then we are cool to now check our values. But now before saving, I want us to add another thing. So remember we had our affected table and our affected. So here I'll choose here IP address. And when you are saving, how are we getting the IP address? So let's just check on our tickets. So this is how you are getting it. So you are doing this one, and we are actually pasting. So let's just go to our audit. So here we can always get our, so do you need that? So let's just see our IP address. So this is it. This is giving us, so yeah, we are not able to get this. So do we need to save this? Let's just remove this. And the table, I want to replace this with also the module. So I'll say module, I want it to reflect the table names. So since we have this, we are now having the user ID and the IP address. So let's just remove, so let's just go to our audit trails. I want us to remove tracking the IP addresses. So let's just do away with this. So we now have these particular columns. So we've changed our audit trails. So what you need to be aware is every time now we are saving anything on our application, you'll notice we now have errors. And some of these errors is based on these audit trails. So we are going to remove these things that we've been add coding. So you see this add coding, whenever we just do save changes, it will actually save our changes. So that is it. So I want us to do that. The next thing is yeah, so we need to remove now this particular add coding that we've been doing. But now we need to remove all this. So, but now there is one thing that you need to be aware of. You see save changes. If you want to save our application with the entries, we now need to supply the user ID. So here we'll be supplying the logged in user. You see, that's what you'll be doing. So for the tickets as well, we need to remove this, and we need to supply our user ID on save changes. and that is we'll be able to track. So it is actually simplified. Instead of hard coding and repeating all this process, I want us to be just passing the user ID when we are saving the changes, and our audit trail is done. Remember, even we were tired duplicating, so we did not add it on some of the modules. But now we'll be required to pass the user ID who is logged in, and you're able to track everything that they are doing. So you see, just be doing that. So I think it's much simpler now than how we were handling it. So it will just be passing the user ID. So let me just also go back to create. So everywhere there is a create, so you're going to remove these as add codings here, and we just apply the user ID. So that's the best thing. So let's just also do again here, and we are going to supply the user who is logged in. So is there an error again? So everywhere there is an error, you can actually do away with those changes that we've done. So we need to modify it. So here I'll also supply the ID, then I'm going to remove this. So instead of hard coding that, you can always change how you are saving the users, and that is okay. So I'm going to do everywhere we had save changes, I'll be doing I'll be supplying the user ID. So you see, and we are going to actually see how this will work. So under countries, which was our recent module, so everywhere there is changes, I'm supplying the user ID. On editing, I'm also supplying the user ID. Then under comments, I'm also going to supply the user ID when we are creating. And remember, we had actually even had coded the audit logs here. So you can remember what the amount of workload we've reduced. So I'll just do that. And under cities, I'll also update it here. And that is cool. Then audit trails, I think we are not doing anything. So we've updated that on all our models. But now, remember, we modified our audit trail table. So I'm going to add NuGet Manager Console. We are going to run some migrations. So let's just do that. So I'll say add migration. Then I'll say audit trails. So if we just add migration and say audit trails, then it will now redesign our table and remove those columns that you've removed, and it will add new columns. So if you're new to this channel and you're watching this video, consider subscribing, like our video, comment down below. And in case you need the source code, you can claim the source code using the link down below. And you feel if you don't have to access the source code, you can always even appreciate us by buying us coffee and commenting down below, which will actually help us to understand if there are things that you need. So as you can see, we have an error. So if you want to know what is the issue, we can rebuild our project. So if you rebuild our project, you'll be able to know the kind of errors that we have, and we can always rectify them. I'm sure these are some of the columns that we've just removed. So if we go to, you'll see here we have audit trail. So we have the audit trail section where this was, we've removed we've removed this particular column. So I'm going to remove that. And actually this is more on the audit trail views. So let's just go there and try to make some changes. So under create, we've removed it. Under delete, remove the this particular column. Then also on the delete, you can also remove the address, and also on edit, so you can also remove that. And remember, we don't need these actions because we are not actually editing the audit trails and even deleting. So that is what we need to remove. You can actually do away with this particular section. So I'm going to remove them even, because I'll just retain the details section and the index page, but the rest I'm going to delete them so that we don't have anyone to reuse those particular views. So if we just remove them, so we are retained with the index and details. You can only view the audit trails, but you cannot do anything. So if we update our application now, our errors should be gone. So if you've been doing these videos or following this series, I think there is one particular error that we need to address. That is under tickets. So we remove that. And remember, we need to pass the user ID. So yes, this is the logged user. We need to pass the user ID here. Then which other section? Yes, we need to remove this and we need to pass the user ID. So if you pass the user ID there, then we are cool. Which other area? That is it. So remember, we had coded these particular items, so we are actually changing how we are approaching it. So that is it. I think it's done now. Yeah, I'm going to remove this. So you've just done away with the IP address, so I'm going to remove that. But in case you want to add that particular property, you can add it and you can track it. But for me, I don't want to track the IP addresses. So there is still an error. So until we don't have any error, guys, will be yes. So I'm going to remove this. So everywhere there is a user ID, everywhere there is a audit trail, so you are going to change them. So there we go as well. So this was under tickets. I thought we had saved this. Okay. So where is this again? This is under tickets. I think we had done a lot of audit trails on this ticket section. So I'm going to add that. So let's rebuild our project again. So if we rebuild, we should now be having a clean project and we should add migrations. So for those who are watching this video for the first time and you really like what you are seeing, you can comment down below, and in case you need us to do something, you can always comment down below. So I'll just do NuGet Package Manager console, and as you can see, we were adding migrations. So I'll just add migration again using add migration audit trails. So audit trails is our migration name, and if everything goes well, our migration file will be generated. So you can see the name audit trails is used by an existing migration, so we need to rename our migration name. So you can say audit trails updated. So that is the issue. Actually, you cannot reuse the same migration name that you had provided earlier. So as you can see, this is our changes. We've just renamed the IP address, and we have added new columns. So that is it. So we need to update the database. You can do update database. So if you just run update database, then our new columns will be added. So that is the old values, the new values, and even the change, that is the columns, affected columns. So as you can see, our migration is running and everything is okay. So our new tables has been added. So if you go to our database and you confirm on our help desk table database, so where is it? I have it was called sample help desk. So on our tables, if we go to the help desk, that is audit trail table, you'll notice now we have some additional columns, and that is the old values, the affected columns, and the new values. So you see, this is our audit trails, and you can see our primary key, these as kind of renamed. Then we actually renamed this. Then you have the affected columns, the new columns, and the old columns. So how do that work? So if you just launch our app and try to create something, you should be able to see how now our save changes is working. So we should now be not worried about the audit trails. So everything we are doing within our system, the system will be tracking without us even getting noticed, and it will be tracking everything as we go along. So let's just launch our app. So you remember what we were doing was actually heavy, and we were duplicating everything across. But now we are doing it in a very simpler manner. So let's just start by either creating a department. So if you just create department, and we say here cleaning, then you say cleaning department. So if we create, let's just confirm if everything is okay there. So you see we have an object set. So there's something wrong here. Yeah, so there's something we've done wrong here. You see, we added actually, so for the change columns, what we did wrong here, we said get set. This should not be the case. We just need to do get here. Then we need to define this as new. So that is because this is a list. So we just do that. So that is the issue there. So let's just do that and relaunch our app. So change column should be get, then new, because this is a list. So let's relaunch our app again and see. So there we go. So we're going to sign in and also try to create the department. Then we'll be able to see some of the audit trails that has been logged to our database. So if we just sign in, then we go to departments. So we're going to departments. So if we say new, then we say here cleaning. Here we'll be cleaning. Sorry. Then we call this cleaning department. And if we click create, there you go. You see, cannot insert the values null into columns affected. So audit trace column does not allow null. So there are some things that we need to check. So if we go to our audit trail model, so we need to modify some things. So if we go to our columns affected, so that is our, so let's just go back to our audit trail. So I want us to modify something on our audit trail. Go to the models, then audit trail table. So there are some columns that can be null. So this one, we say here affected column. Then we need to say old values, and you can also have, can say new values, and you can also have affected columns. So affected table cannot be null, can have it that way. Then you say affected columns, then you can also have our primary key. So let's just have that those three as nullables. Then we can also, so once we do that, we need to change our, we need to add our migrations. So let's do it. New get packager manager console. We need to clear. Just do clear. Then you say updated latest. So that is the name of our migration. So we've added the, so that's the challenge with the current .NET Core, that is .NET 8. You need to specify if the strings are actually nullable. So you can see it actually treats them as a mandatory. So you need to do update database. Then if you just do that, it will now make those particular columns as nullable. So we are going to do that. Then if we update our database, then we need to now start our application and see how it will go along. So let's try now. So we've made those particular columns nullable, and we should be able now to try this out. So we're going to create a department, and we should be able to see how it looks like. So here we are going to say departments, then new, then we'll say here cleaning, then here this is cleaning, say cleaning department. So if I click create, you see our department has been created as clean, clean, clean. But if we go to our audit trails, if you scroll to the last item, you'll notice that the affected column is null, and the old values are null because this is a new record. So the only thing we have is the new values. So you can see the new values actually is the new values is actually, you can see these are the new values and they're actually in a JSON format. So you can see the code created by, created on, modified by, and name is the department. Those are the new values. So that is how our application look like. So if you go to the audit trails, you'll notice that we still have our details. These are our details and you are able to track them. So what I'll be doing on our next video is actually to pre-populate the details that we've just updated. So I'm going to leave it there for today and actually proceed on our next video. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and see you in our next video. Bye.